Okay, let's get it started.
All right.
Let's get this party started.
Okay.
There's McDonald's in Costa
Oh yeah,
Rica.
right there.
McCafe. I love McCafe.
Yeah. We when I first came here, we had two McDonald's, I think. We was in the area I live, and now they just built one right down the street. So it's like 500 yards away from my house.
That's awesome.
It's great. This country's amazing. There's two pitfalls, and one is that the price of everything, specifically food, is way expensive. And I know you guys are feeling that where you are now, but it's
Yeah.
really and there are too many cars in this country. Way too many cars for the little infrastructure we have.
Well, I feel it here too. Yeah.
Yeah, just the way it is. But it's going to get much worse with inflation and the dollar printing and everything that's happening. It's going to get much, much worse. And I honestly don't believe many people are prepared for it. I don't believe many people. I'll talk about the states specifically. I don't believe many people even understand what's happening right now. I really don't. But it's the way it is. It's what happens when you print all these trillions of dollars like it's nothing.
Yeah, and I felt that way when I purchased this mortgage on this house. Because in New York, it was like as- astronomical, astronomical, or extra. It was just over the top. It was like, well, these salaries are not growing.
Yes. I'll give you a quick sentence, something to think about, and I can send you links after the call if you want. But the your cost of living there, let's make it easier. The US dollar specifically, it's deflating by 15% approximately every year. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but it's true. And you are not getting a 15% pay raise in your job if you get a pay raise at all. That's why the US dollar is deflating at such a rapid rate. Eventually, it's going to be extinct. Uh, I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just get to how and why I contacted you.
Okay.
So the morning before I contacted you, I was like changing and my statue fell apart. I was reaching over for my dress. This is Lakshmi.
It's
Um,
what?
Lakshmi. She's a Hindu goddess.
Okay, yes,
So
that's what I thought. Yes.
so she has three arms and it's about receiving.
Okay.
And when I looked it up, when I purchased it, it was 7 years ago. And I was so distraught that I knocked over the statue. But like a few days before, I was mentioning to my boyfriend, like some people, you give them a finger and they grab your arm, and then you're walking around with like one arm. And
Yes.
whoa, it was that's pretty much what inspired me because I had an interview sometime last week, and I was just interviewing because I've already been offered a job, and it was the first time I sat in a room with five people, like physically. And the hiring manager was late. I was waiting in the lobby. Uh, I saw the person they interviewed before me. He looked very timid. He looked very fearful, in my opinion, because I used to be that. So I just went to this interview with like, whatever. I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Um, but once I got there, a lot of her team members were around my age, or a little younger, or a little older. Uh, she and I didn't realize like I was like narc bait at that time. I like in the moment. I didn't realize I'm narc bait. I did not realize it until the day after. So she's like, "Oh, get up, look at the whiteboard, look at the writings, make a guess, do this, do that, don't interrupt me." And she was like, when I asserted to her why I chose project management is because I like to manage projects, not people. And she immediately interrupted me and made me feel like garbage. And this is why you came into my mind. Like, we don't want authority over people. But the rest of her team was like, yeah, she's so awesome. I love her. She didn't like that. So I woke up the next morning and said to myself, and then I text the recruiter and I said, I don't want to be considered for this position. This is chaos. The manager is chaos.
And this was last week.
Yeah.
And what happened subsequently?
That was it. They were like, thank you. But the thing is, the people that were subordinates, I had raised a question like, what do you want from this position? What do you want from this person? Since this requisition was open for a year, what has not worked out? So she said, that's a great question. I'm going to answer it, and everyone else is going to answer it.
Now I get. And what were the answers? Quickly, if you remember, what was the feeling?
They have to pick up the slack. They have to take initiative. They have to take initiative and do everything and anything. Text them, call them, email them. I was like, that sounds very familiar. Like, I like to give
So,
respect to people. Like, if I email you, I email you. If I need to send a remind you, I'll automatically flag an email. But I don't want to chase people. I don't want to do that.
so how did you feel when you told the recruiter that you wanted to be removed from consideration for the position?
I basically just sent a text. I was like, the manager's chaotic. Don't consider me.
But did you feel when you did that? How did you feel once you told the
I
recruiter
felt
that?
I felt personally liberated because
Excellent.
because I was excited about the interview because it was a newly facilitated medical uh, building. And I was excited about the rest of the team members because one of them said to me, they said, you're gonna have to be liked by Clarabelle. That's what they said. I was like, okay, Clarabelle is your shadow. Clarabelle is it. And like Clarabelle walked me down. She's like, look at that pharmacy. I worked on that project. That pharmacy's in the reception area. And I was like, that's wonderful. And I really at that moment felt like I was just there to affirm them.
I
Because
get
I
it.
because I already had a job offer. Like I was like, you know what? Let me just experience this. I haven't been on a physical interview in a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great thing. It's really great what we're talking about and what your experience was. What happened is you've put your knowledge and your wisdom and your intuition to practice, and you understood in the moment, which many people don't do, and I'll tell you why in a second. But you put it in practice, and you said, "Hey, the energy here isn't right. This woman's energy is definitely not right. It's all about her. And if I need to take this job, or if I'm going to accept this job, I'm going to most likely be subservient to someone that I am not comfortable with, and B, whatever the money is, which we can talk about, it's not worth it." And then when you were in the interview surrounded with Clarabelle, I believe, and four or five other people, that was a huge indication of how the culture of that company is currently working, which sounds to me like it, I don't want to overstep my bounds, but it doesn't sound like it's a healthy working environment. So the way I would read this, just from what you mentioned, is those people that are there, the four or five people that are surrounding Clarabelle are, and I don't know, but it's just a sensation that maybe they are kind of in the fog, and they are doing what Clarabelle wants on her time when she wants, and going to have to give her all the accolades and all that. Whereas it sounds like maybe they do need some more healthier, stronger people to work in that environment. As long as Clarabelle is there, it sounds like that's not going to happen.
No,
And just
no,
by the fact that,
Clarabelle's probably the the strong point. The manager, her name, we'll call her D. She was the one that kind of used me as a scratching post.
and that then I got the name wrong, but it's the same
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
So,
So I will tell you first. Let me say one more thing, and I'll let you talk. Is why I asked you how you felt when you told the headhunter that you, I think that's what you call it, that you were not interested in that position. You mentioned you felt liberated. That's a great thing. That's a green flag because what you want is we need to work, we need jobs and things, but you need a healthier position. You don't want to enter a toxic job environment. And if that position has been available for a year or so and hasn't been filled, massive red flag. So
huge turnover. They try to fill it, but no one's ever satisfied. And I was like, that's interesting. So when I first got to New Jersey, where I am now, um, I used to work for as an executive assistant before I transitioned to project management. And when I found this place, they interviewed me in the Marriott as a breakfast interview. So I had to eat and interview at the same time, which was strange, but
yeah, I've never heard of that.
interesting.
I've never heard that before.
So I was already a public speaking member. So Toastmasters is like, they have different clubs. So we used to meet for dinner and do a Toastmasters meeting. So I was already at that time in 2009, I was already kind of accustomed to eating and speaking, listening, blah, 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 whatever. So this business owner from a real estate company interviews me there. We're eating our oatmeal or whatever. Um, and I get the job as his assistant. He's like a co-owner of a real estate company. And I really loved it. I loved that job. It was a beautiful office. Like the walls were glass, and in the background, I saw deers. It was beautiful. I
Wow.
loved it. I loved that place. And I was doing really well. I was there for 7 months. And the other workers were saying, "Oh, you're lucky number seven." And I never really understood what they meant
What is
because
it?
because it took so many people to like even last that long. He treated me well. I mean, I did everything he wanted me to do. I like cleaned his desk in the morning. I served him coffee. I was so grateful. I'm learning about the paralegal stuff. I'm learning about residential listings. I was so grateful. And then one day, this is where Narc comes in, but I didn't understand what was happening. One day he takes me to his office. He's like, "It's not working out. You're driving me crazy. You're making errors." And I said, "Okay." I went and sat down at my desk. I put my head down. I literally cried. I didn't make a scene. I went to HR, which she was very nice to me. She was like, "Are you going to quit?" I was like, "No, I'm not going to quit." And the next day I come in and I was like, "Show me the errors. Show me what I did so I can improve." So a week later, they're like, "Oh, we're moving this position in a different direction. You got to sign off, kind of not to sue them." But that's what happened.
When was that?
That was in 2009.
Did they ever show you what the errors were or the alleged errors?
Never, never.
Exactly. Exactly. I know we're being recorded, so I'm going to kind of have to watch what I say a little bit here. But I mentioned I created a video 2 weeks ago about HR and about the workplace bully. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. The point is, HR is in place, from my perspective, in most organizations, I'm talking about globally, to buffer the employee and the business. We know that. However, I've had my fair share of HR experiences, an awful lot of them actually, and HR has not one time helped me out in the capacity that I was expecting. Now, there's no way, let's say that I've had X number of HR experiences in different companies throughout the world. You would expect that at least a few times HR would have been on my side, but they have not exactly. So, having said that, HR, what they do is they are basically like a mini lawyer, an intermediary, whatever that word is, to benefit the business and the workplace bully or whoever they're trying to protect in the business, but it is certainly not going to be you, the employee. And they will do anything they can with lexicon and jumbling up words to say, that position doesn't exist anymore. That position, it's going to be terminated, and with all the wording just to have you removed from the operation. And what you illustrated there was a prime example because when the boss called you into the office, you were doing a great job, you were comfortable, you were happy, you were thriving, and then one day the mask slipped, or he just, whatever he did, doesn't really, we're not going to dissect that. But then you pulled yourself together, you asked for evidence, there was no evidence to be found because you wanted to stay, and then HR again did what they always do, they protect the workplace bully, and that's why you were number 7. And if that person is still there, I'm sure they're not, it's been a long time, but if they're still in the workplace, I'm certain they're still doing the same thing with other people.
And it was a blessing in disguise, really, because I was enjoying myself, and subsequently, like I then afterwards, I worked for a company that recorded videos for the government war, and I was kind of like his assistant, but he wanted kind of me to bully his receptionist, and I thought she was lovely. I'm like, I'm not going to compete with her. And I made some travel arrangements one day, and he was like, "Oh, I don't like what you did. I'm letting you go." But he was so weird. Everyone was afraid of him. Like no one could leave the office after an 8-hour shift. And I was like, "Okay, I'm done here." And he didn't like that I was like that.
Yeah, so I believe that's called the herd mentality, which means those people where they most likely needed their jobs, which we all do. I've said that previously, but they just said, hey, they've been beaten down so much, they just probably said, hey, that's the way it is here, and they became yes people. And even though they're the kind of people most likely that went to work, did their job, whatever they had to do, said yes to this guy, and then when they got in their car or train, went home, and they were probably just not in a good mood, like venting massively. So that's why, I mean, there's so many things to discuss, but that's why the 9 to 5 workplace, as we call it, or whatever it used to be called, these cubicles, these offices, all these things, they're from my opinion, they're antiquated. They should not be. And again, I created that video a couple weeks ago. There's no reason if you are in a workplace, let's say an office, and you have a desk and all these kind of things. Okay, that environment worked 50 years ago because that's the way it was. But now we have the internet, we have work from home, we have so much technology that is improving at lightning speed. We need to utilize that. Now, I'm going to come full circle. And the thing is that person, that boss, whoever that person was, they're just a power hungry person. And I've experienced that so many times. Productivity is on the radar, but bullying and having people stay later and longer and not enjoying their free time of their lives, that's actually equally as important to these people. Meaning they don't want you to have life. They want to think of themselves as being way up here. And by testing you, yeah, your shift is over at 5, but I'm going to make you stay till 6:30 because we have to do this, or this, or whatever. No, they're energy stealers, and you're not being paid for any of that extra time. What you're doing is it's kind of like this. Remember when you were a kid and you were in school and maybe you had detention. I don't know if you had detention but maybe you did something wrong, and the teacher's like, "You're staying after school for an extra 30 minutes, and you have to write all these useless words in a book or whatever on the chalkboard, whatever it was." That's what these people do. It's the same analogy, only you're older, and you know better, and most likely you did nothing wrong, but they're casting doubt or shadow or blame on you for a lack of performance, all these things, and you're like, I'm an adult, like I have a wife and kids, or I have whatever I have to do, and no, that's exactly how it is.
Yeah, and there's this channel called Theremin Trees that does this transactional analysis. They call it the parent, adult, and child status. And this is the thing, when I go to work, I was like, we're all adults here. Like, don't try to treat me like
Yeah,
my parent or a child.
there you go. You just illustrated what I mentioned. That's it. But here is a because you said that, it's a great point. Here's a good way to identify a red flag in the workplace, and I should actually do a video on that. But what it is, it's exactly what you said. So if you're in the workplace and you're doing work, whatever you're enjoying, everything's just it's in a flow state, and good days, not so good days, whatever. But that's great. But if you ever hear the expression, "We're not kids," that's a huge red flag because that means that you are thinking that other people are thinking that, and you're right. You're not kids. We're not kids, but that's a big one because if you feel like you're being treated like a kid in the workplace and you are in fact a healthy adult, massive red flag.
Yeah, so which
Huge.
which transitions me into my last position that I left on Friday. It was a beautiful last day. Like, and it was hard for me because my hiring manager gave me a shot. She didn't manage, like, she just opened the door for me, but I was very independent. I worked on that project for 6 months from January to June, right? So when they decided to transition me and cut the teams, it was really hard for me to like say, "Oh my gosh, like I need to like give my notice. Should I do it one day to the next? No, I should give consideration here." They gave me a shot and I've learned a lot, and even though they cut the teams or whatever it was, I didn't want to leave without grace because she gave me a shot. She interviewed me. She chose me. And I needed somebody's help to say, help me write this email because I'm about to lie. Like I said, oh, I'm going to go to the medical industry because I didn't want to say, oh, I'm going to a similar industry. I have this job offer. I just, it hurt me like internally to say, okay, I need to lie to this person. I can't tell the exact truth, but I really am grateful that they gave me a shot. Like I learned a lot. When they transitioned me out of the program into a new project, I was like, I'm not doing anything. Like every day, I'm like spending time training. I'm not really doing anything. And it's like I'm not earning my paycheck. And my other mentor was like, just go with it, Liza. Just go with it. I was like, I can't. I can't.
Yeah, I, I, I know that feeling very well.
You
So
do?
the way you're built is what you need is you need to be productive and to learn and to grow and to feel fulfilled at the end of the day, the work, the week, the month. And if you're not, there's no amount of money that's going to keep you satisfied because you're actually a goal oriented person, which is, I would say, rare because most people would take that person's advice. Just do your thing and act like you're busy and get the paycheck. Yeah, you can't do that. So that's why probably when you left, on Friday, you were like, wow, I'm really going to miss this environment, the project, the person that handpicked you. My hope is you kept that relationship. You definitely should. Yeah, you need to do that.
Yeah, and
But I can
I have this
go
thing
ahead.
where I do like, so the two programs that they assign me to, I do the OneNote, the virtual notebook. So I shared everything. This is everything I did. I'm leaving this behind. That's what made me feel fulfilled. Like, this is what I did day to day. This is, if somebody was to step in, they were like, I know what she did.
Yeah, so it's the lineage of your work performance throughout the duration of that role, and that's a good thing. Yeah, you're leaving it behind for others to benefit from and to make their path easier. See, that's a great thing, and that's why you're successful in what you do. Many people, like I said, they honestly they just collect a paycheck and they just okay, I'm home, and wow. Now, like kind of changing gears, but like Another huge red flag for people in the workplace is if it's, let's say you have Monday through Friday work and it's Sunday evening and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go in tomorrow at 8 o'clock. If that ever crosses your mind, you need to find new work. It's just the way it is. On the other side of that, if it's Sunday and you enjoyed your weekend and you're like, wow, tomorrow I'm looking, it's going to be great. I'm doing this. Then you're like, you found the right position and you're in a good spot. But so many people with Sunday night rolls around and they're just like, really? I have to deal with this person or this environment. Or another one is many people get stuck in positions because of the comfort. Like they know the routine, they know who they can interact with, who they should avoid, and the paycheck is okay, but it's not great. There's no way. The workforce, people are being underpaid massively, but they just say, okay, it's another week. I'll just tolerate it another week. And those people, unfortunately, in my opinion, they're not living. They're just what I call in the everyday fog, which means they're just like zombies walking around doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they don't want to break out and grow and learn. They're just in their little spot. My heart goes out to those people.
Yes, um so the position I accepted was wonderful. They were like, we want you to do project management, presentations, SharePoint, help us, lead us, facilitate us. And I was like, what? This is great. I was excited. But the only thing that was kind of like, I was hesitant is because it's 100 miles away. I took a dry run drive with my boyfriend. Thankfully, he went with me because I had a horrible time when I was in an actual environment. It's a great company, but it's just filled with homelessness and crowdedness. And I was driving and I looked at somebody like chasing a pigeon and I wanted to pull over and beat somebody up because he was trying to abuse a pigeon. Like, oh my gosh, I feel awful about that.
When was that? Tell me when that was.
Philadelphia. That was Sunday, the day before Memorial Day. So
And,
the
and you,
29th. The 29th. May 29th.
but did you take that? Did you take that job, or you went to test it?
I did take that job. I did take that job, but I haven't started yet. They haven't
Okay.
done everything for me yet. But they said we want you to come in twice a week. So I was like, okay, well, I mean not twice a week, twice a month. So I was
Okay, I was
like,
going to say.
let me drive there. Let me see how it's like to drive there. I was tired. I was like, you know what? I saw a train station. I'm gonna take the train. I'm not gonna drive here because when I parked the car on a Sunday morning, like 8:30 in the morning, there's somebody like behind me, like honking, like move, move, and I'm trying to find a spot, and I just yelled out like, shut up, because I think, and I knew deep down, I'm gonna be the first one to find a spot. He's behind me. I'm not gonna let him rush me.
That's right.
Then he's yelling at me, learn how to drive, and profanities. And then my boyfriend's like, you can get yourself in trouble. Like he was really afraid for me.
So, wait, to be clear, so you live in New Jersey, this job is in Philly, and you're going to be going in there twice a month. Is that correct?
That's what they want.
Can you select the days when you go in, or they will ask you?
So I haven't received the laptop, so that's delayed. I got to get a drug screening. So next week, I'm good. Like I'll just wait for whatever happens. I got to get my drug screening on Monday. They're sending the laptop, but then yesterday I had another interview and it was phenomenal. Like it was phenomenal. I was like, oh my gosh, I love these people. 100% remote, more money, but I'm just trying to.
Wait, stay with me, because I really want to give you some insight here.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to go back to the Philly job, and food for thought. Just I know you, I believe you already accepted it, but just food for thought. And then I'm really curious what you're going to say about this other job. But the Philly job, um, pay attention to what you mentioned. Like you told me your experience driving with your boyfriend 100 miles, and the pigeon, and the person honking the horn, and the environment of the, yeah. So just really kind of open your eyes here. I personally would. I'm going to say it, and I want to. Yeah, it's very important. I hear you about your other job. I'm not so sure if the job that job is for you, and I'm just a human being. But everything I'm reading here, the 100 miles, that's a long way. I know it's only 2 days a month, but that environment, like it's a Sunday morning, that's when people are supposed to be out walking around having a cup of coffee and being peaceful and friendly. And if you experience that amount of toxicity so early on, that's a red flag I would pay attention to. Um, please elaborate on this other job that you seem to get very excited about, because that could be the job for you. Tell me what's going on here with a fully remote job.
Well, I didn't know I applied. Like I just like applied, and then they're like, "Oh, they want to interview you." And the um, staffing firm was very nervous for me because they picked you out of 20 resumes that we sent. Like they really want to know you. And I was like, "Wow, that's nice." And the lady was like nervous. She was like speaking like 100 words a minute. I'm like, "Calm down, slow down. Thank you. I'll
Got
do
it.
my best. I appreciate you," because staffing firms do make a cut of your hourly pay. But she prepared me. She was great. She opened up the meeting for me. It was it was wonderful. I mean, I've it was just wonderful. It was very interactive. We were all on camera and we were all speaking and sharing and speaking truthfully. Like, this is an inception project. We're doing this, we're doing that. We expect this, we expect that. How do you use the tools? What do you do? How do you get people engaged? And they were really truly listening.
What day of the week was this?
Yesterday, Friday. Yeah. Today's
And then
Saturday.
how did and how did what how did you leave it with the company? Like, are you going to hear back from them, or what's
Well,
how did
the
that?
staffing firm knows I've already have like an offer on the table, so it's up to them because they were surprised that they got the request, right? They submitted 20
Say that again.
resumes. So
Say that again.
the staffing firm that found me were surprised that they got a request for me.
Yes, I know. I get that. Then you went on the interview, and it went very well. Is that right?
Yeah, and they were very attentive. They told me that they move very fast, but that's all I know.
So, okay. So the question is, did they say, "Hey, we'll get back to you next week," or
No, they didn't. Mm-mm.
okay? Just and where's not that it really matters, but where's the location of the office? Even though I know it's 100% remote.
Oklahoma.
Wow, interesting. Okay, I am not a headhunter or whatever that term is. I don't know what it is these days. I would keep that door open 100% because I watched your energy. Like and I don't know if you're recording a video here, but if you are, you
I
can
am.
replay this part.
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. Because when your facial features, when you mentioned the Philly job, were completely different to when you mentioned the Oklahoma job. And that the Oklahoma job sounds like a huge green flag. Nothing against the Philly job, because I know you're grateful to have it. But here's what I would consider doing. I would consider leveraging your Oklahoma job. Leveraging your Philly job or your Oklahoma job. And you already did that to a degree because you mentioned to the Oklahoma people you already have something in the works. That's beautiful, but really replay what your emotions, because when you were like, "Oh my God, this job's 100% remote," and you were so excited and everything, that's how you want to be. And like driving to Philly 100 miles, I know it's only twice a week, twice a month, but it still is 24 times a year. And I'm sure there'll be other times that they want you to go in there that they're just not talking about right now, like the phantom emergency meeting or the new project, whatever it is. So that 2 days, I'm sure, will blossom into a couple more. And it doesn't sound like Philadelphia is the safest city these days. So what I'm suggesting, and I'm sure you do it, I would leverage your Philly job and maybe stay on top of the recruiter and see, because it sounds like she was very excited for you. I know she gets some money
Oh,
for
well,
some
she's on
pretty.
top of me actually, which is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's almost like you're the recruiter, and you're getting the
And this is
spot for
how I
her.
approach most interviews. Like, they're not only interviewing me, I'm interviewing them.
That's a good way to look at it. It's a great way to look at it. And you know, I agree with you. Everything on this call is exactly that's how you've said it. Because you, the first example, you cut three of the. And I know it wasn't Maribel D. I think you said her name was, so you got rid of that one. But I don't think the. You know, I'm curious where the rest of the conversation goes. But the Philly job, it's good to have it. We all need work. Beautiful, but I would keep your options open. So it
And
sounds like the Oklahoma.
and the thing that I feel wrong about internally, because there's that fog. I once read a book named Emotional Blackmail. They call the fog fear, obligation, guilt. Um, it's a great book. I forget who.
Yes,
Susan
send me that
Forward.
because
Susan Forward. Susan Forward.
I would love to read that because I mentioned the fog on my channel virtually every single day. Okay, I'm very curious about that.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop recording. Hold on.
You what?
I'm gonna stop recording. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah. Yeah. So the fear, obligation,